Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, welcome
Brooklyn, New
to
York.
Ask an Engineer. It's me, Ladyada, the engineer. Thanks for sticking with us. Last week I had the plague, but I'm feeling better now.
My joke was, it's Lat Day, we are so back.
I'm so back. And I've already started drinking. Okay, so an engineer broadcasting live from downtownish Brooklyn. We've got an exciting show, lots of engineering and making and hacking and videos and tutorials and guides to distract you. So let's get
Wouldn't it be nice to get away?
All right.
Think about Ask an Engineer for almost 20 years doing this as your oasis of sharing and engineering and being kind to one another. We're doing this every single week. We have discount codes. We have a bunch of segments. We're catching up from last week.
We're going to keep making.
We're going to keep doing stuff. Let's dive right in. On tonight's show, the code is Shift Pixels. I have to be careful if I... Can you say Shift Pixels 10 times? Shift Pixels. Shift Pixels. Yeah, I can do that. Shift Pixels is the code, 10% off in the Adafruit store all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, or when I remember to turn it off. We'll be talking about some of our live shows, including Show and Tell. We got some highlights from Desk of Ladyada, including The Great Search. We got a couple videos from JP's Product Pick of the Week. We've got some time traveling, which includes some mailbag. We got some 3D printing videos, some speed ups we're catching up on. We got INMPI. This week it's Arduino, brought to you by DigiKey. We got some top secret. Got some new products. We're going to answer your questions. You can put them in Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. We also lined up some in advance. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Yep.
Okie dokie. So, first up, Ladyada, the code is Shift Pixels.
Yes.
What did they get when they put stuff in their cart?
When you order from adafruit.com, which we love because it helps support us, the best, you get free stuff. So when you order $99 or more, you get a free PCB coaster with this beautiful gold Adafruit logo and some bumpers to protect your desk.
Yes.
$149 or more, we're still giving away KB2040s. It's a Pro Micro Pinout compatible microcontroller board featuring the Raspberry Pi RP 2040 chip, with lots of flash and memory, LEDs, buttons, and stomach UT. So it's a great upgrade to your classic Pro Micro projects.
Makes sense.
$199 or more in the continental United States, you get free UPS ground shipping. And $299 or more, we're still giving away Circuit Playground Expresses, our favorite all-in-one board for learning programming and making and hacking because everything's built in.
Yeah.
You just plug in a USB cable and you can write code in Arduino, CircuitPython, MicroPython, Code.org CS Discoveries, or MakeCode, or many other languages too.
All right, and just a little bit of to echo what you're saying. So we're A certified woman-owned minority business,
Just recertify.
every single year they have to recertify. Someone comes and visits Lemoore and makes sure that it's really her and all this stuff. It's very difficult. So the reason why is because a lot of companies that get the certification immediately get like government contracts and all that. We don't do that. We've gotten zero. We've never tried to. We don't supply anything to all the entities that tie into these certifications. We just wanted to prove that it's possible, because if we don't do it, then who will? And we're also unique and weird. So when you buy something from Adafruit and use the discount code, you're supporting one of the only, if not the only, woman-owned minority business that does manufacturing in New York City. Okay, so next up, let's talk about some of the live shows that we're doing.
Yeah.
So we do a live show every week. We also have a bunch of show and tells that we do. This week on the show and tell, we had Jepler stop by, showed off to Flopsy.
Flopsy updates.
Yep.
He's working on floppy emulation. So the Flopsy board will do floppy disk reading, floppy disk emulation.
Big deal.
And I added an Apple II Disk 2 port.
Yeah.
So you should be able to do both emulation and reading of Apple II floppy disks, which is good because I'm not sure the applesauce is made anymore. I gotta check. I think they had part shortage issues. Maybe they're making it again.
And so
it's good to have it
all
back
of these archival, things, they kind of come and go at the whims of the creators. We're putting this out as open source hardware. It'll be around forever. And also, we're doing a floppy museum, so we need to archive a lot of the things that we're putting in. JP came by, showed a really cool animatronic pumpkin that like moves real time. It's a very interesting way to get animatronics in because it's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So check out JP's show tomorrow, and we'll probably have some highlight videos at some point with that. And then Aaron came by and showed the highlights from the Halloween. We're going to show 2 videos, so stay tuned for that. And then Dan came by and showed the latest update on his project, and then his software person is coming back. So there's going to be more updates to that project. So thank you everyone for coming by. We have a bunch of stuff we're unpacking. We're doing our little museum at our new factory space. So we're probably just going to show the stuff that we're like unboxing and putting it on the shelf. Like, hey, this is that floppy from the movie Hackers or something.
Yeah.
Okay. On Sundays we do from the desk of Ladyada. This week on the desk of Ladyada, you showed what and you did what for Great Search?
Okay, well I got my lifting desk working, so I showed that off. I also kind of accessoried out my desk. I got a little cable organizer, so there's no more cables all over the place. And I USB-C-ified my electric mug. And then
Are you USB-C on pretty much everything you own now?
I'm trying to. Actually, I'm kind of a believer. The problem is that it's all lies. So that's one of the things I talk about is a lot of stuff that says USB PD, they don't provide up to 20 volts. And so for my mug, I need 20 volts. But Linac, which they made the linear actuators for my desk, which is totally great. I love my lifting desk now. It's awesome.
Yeah.
They sent me this hub, and it gets power from the motor driver. And it's actually a really good USB PD. They did it properly, where it gives you 20 volts.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff doesn't.
It's so bad that the Atlantic wrote an article that said this was a lie. This USB-C thing.
It's not a lie. It was
So I had our team post up the article, and then we have an article that's all about the different flavors of USB-C. Kind of reminds me of Bluetooth, where it's Bluetooth can do everything like that.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that it does work, but unfortunately, you I showed off my little USB-C tester. You need that. It'll tell you what.
You still need to be an expert. I'm going through so many IoT things right now for home automation and stuff. Yeah. Everything's different. Nothing really works. Every cable you think it does, but it doesn't. USB-C is one of those tricky ones.
Well, especially if you're using Thunderbolt. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then for JP's product pick of the week, we're going to show 2 in a row for the highlights since we skipped last week. So buckle up. Here we go.
It is the Power Relay Featherwing. It is terrific for switching high power stuff. I have this jumper closed. That one corresponds to pin 10. And whenever you set that pin to high, in this case pin 10, it will close the relay and then allow that larger current to flow through there. I have a little button here, a little switch. When I press it, it will start opening and closing that relay, which in turn opens and closes my solenoid because it's sending the full 12 volts through there. And I can turn that back off. It for just 0.025 seconds and then dwell in a pause mode for just 0.07 seconds, so it'll be pretty fast. And there we go. Tick, 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 tick. I love this thing. It is fantastic. It is the answer. I don't know what your question is, but it's probably the answer. It is the Power Relay Featherwing. it is the infrared IR transceiver breakout. I have a Feather RP2040 plugged into pins 5 and 6 for data in and out are two of these IR transceivers, and then they're also plugged into 3-volt power and ground. If I press red there, or green there, or blue there, both receiving a signal and turning them one of these colors. So I have received blue on one of these, I covered the other one up, and then after a moment it turns off and resends whatever message it just received. Since they both have identical code, they're just going to send this little message back and forth forever. Pink there, so waits, sends, this one's going to receive, then it's going to turn off, send, this one's going to receive, turn off, send, off, send. The infrared IR transceiver breakout.
And JP's workshop is on Thursday tomorrow. And then a Friday deep dive with Tim. Scott's on dad leave because Scott just had a kid. Congratulations, Scott. And we'll have more shows and fun stuff from Tim. Get a glimpse into what's going on with CircuitPython with deep dive with Tim on Fridays. Time travel. Wouldn't everyone like to get away? So for time travel this week, I'm actually just going to do mailbag because this is a nice one. So you get 2 songs.
Letters. We get letters. We get tweets and we get emails.
Okay, mailbag this week. This is so nice. This is over on Mastodon where we like to hang out. Adafruit, I think adafruit.com/new is one of my favorite places to visit on the web. So many possibilities. Also, thank you for Stomach UT. It makes things so much easier to prototype. Thank you. We spend a lot of time on adafruit.com/new. And we know, because we talk to people in the industry, they say that is one of their tabs that they always have open when they open up their computer.
Hey, guys.
Because you have so many...
I have IP logs.
You have-
I know who's looking.
Yeah, we know who's looking.
I know who's looking.
Well, we used to know. I don't know, it's Target now with all the cloud for when we were...
Ain't nothing changing. 9:05 a.m.
When we were a tiny company and a competitor was DOSing our website and taking it down because they were doing some silly stuff, we're like, whoa, like someone's visiting exactly at 9:05 every day to see our new products. Oh, we know what that is because the IP said it. It was a simpler, weirder time back then. Anyways, so thank you. We spent a lot of time on Adafruit.
I try to have cool stuff in /new. I do try. Like I approve everything that goes in the store. I test it by hand. Sometimes I make mistakes, but usually I get it right, and I try to only put good stuff in.
Yeah. It's Python on Hardware time. This week, because we did not have a show last week, we finally get to show our video. That's why I started the show a little earlier of It's a Snap. Here we go.
You can use your iOS device to control or monitor your Adafruit I/O projects using It's a Snap. With It's a Snap, you can send data from your iOS device to your Adafruit I/O projects. This means you can send photos, weather, location, and health data to your Adafruit I/O feeds. You can even control HomeKit devices directly from the app. All of that data that's living on your iOS device can now be used in your Adafruit I/O projects with It's a Snap. In the app, the overview page lets you browse all of your Adafruit I/O feeds. You can tap on any feed and see its data history. A list of values are displayed with the date and time they were posted. In this quick demo, we can type out a value in the input field and send it to the feed. On our Adafruit Feather ESP32TFT running CircuitPython, we can display that value we just sent. This illustrates you can quickly send values directly to an Adafruit I/O feed. With Apple shortcuts, we can create custom actions to send and receive data from your Adafruit I/O feeds. For example, you can set up a shortcut to send a random value to a feed and then have it displayed on a Feather ESP32TFT. This means you can also automate shortcuts to create custom workflows for your IoT projects. In this project, we can use Apple shortcuts and It's a Snap to send a photo from our iOS device and display it on this round display connected to a Qualia S3 running CircuitPython. You can recreate this project by checking out the tutorial at learn.adafruit.com. With Apple HomeKit devices, you can use It's a Snap to create a bridge between Adafruit I/O and HomeKit devices. Inside the app, we can see all of the HomeKit devices that we set up in the Apple Home app. We can tap on them to see all of their device info, and we can control this nanoleaf LED strip by turning it on and off. In this project demo, we have a Feather ESP32 TFT running CircuitPython code to display data from an EVE temperature sensor. The buttons are set up to trigger different presets on our nanoleaf LED strip using Apple shortcuts and It's a Snap. So when we press a button, it triggers a different scene that we set up in the Apple HomeKit app. In our Adafruit IO dashboard, we're logging sensor data from our HomeKit devices to our Adafruit IO feeds to view the sensor values over time. Using Apple shortcuts, we can set up actions from It's a Snap app to get data from the HomeKit devices and send it to an Adafruit IO feed. To learn how you can recreate these projects, head over to Adafruit's Learn site. The app is available and free to download from the Apple App Store. We hope this inspires you to use It's a Snap with your Adafruit IO projects.
Adafruit Daily deliver to your inbox every single week. This is this week's. You can see all the things that are in there and more. The highlight was It's a Snap.
MicroPython 1.24 is out.
Yep.
Arduino has an editor. There's another web editor. There's a lot of web editors
What's
now.
going
You have
on?
your choice.
All right, let's do some open source hardware news, guides, and more. We're an open source hardware company. Therefore, we publish. Ladyada, what is on? How many guides do we have? Well,
used to say like
I used to say how many guides we had. You're right. Do you want me to start bringing?
Yeah,
Do you
scroll to the bottom.
want me to bring it back? No, because there's it's the best place to find it is here at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
And then what I used to do is I would zoom in. So we have 3,000. Yeah.
And 7.
So
That's good.
3,107
Okay.
tutorials.
I'm
It's a
back to
lot.
3,000.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So what's on the big
And they're
board?
all good tutorials, by the way.
That's right. And they're sponsored by all of you, essentially, because you buy electronics from us, and then we pay authors.
Okay. So you just put in the skeleton Halloween transformation illusion. So Erin built this on Halloween Day, but it's a great tutorial for next Halloween. We'll highlight. Every year we highlight all the last ones. Tim Foamy Guy, who does deep dives on Fridays, wrote a guide on creating custom LED animations.
We're going to show a video of that.
LED
We got
animations.
3 videos in a row. Boop, 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 boop.
And Erin did this really cool. I've always wanted this. You know, we saw that movie about what's her name? Oh, I can't remember. Lamar, Hedy Lamar. Thank you. And
I was just saying Lamar.
Hi, Lamar. She had this really cool star headdress in this movie. Back when movies were just like excuses to take close-up photos of beautiful actresses. And the star headdress was cool. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so neat if those were made with like star LEDs? And so when we got these star LEDs in, I had Erin.
We have an interview with the filmmaker, too.
Yeah, she made this headdress. It's really cool. And then we have a guide for the pixel shifter.
Yeah. Let's play some videos.
Okay.
And then well, actually, before we play the videos, let me just remind everyone, you can put your guides up on Playgrounds.
I have a guide I'm actually going to put up about how to USB CFI those Ember mugs. Because I actually have had somebody ask me before on how to do it. And I was like,
So we have the Zapper Light mod, PC Media Remote, Jepler has thing, make code on the go. Anyways, lots of great guides. We'll do, how many do we have here? Maybe
that's a good question. We should find out.
I think we have 172. And so I remember it took a while to get to 172 on Learn, and we're already up to 172 here. So let's watch some videos, and we'll see you on the other side.
Shine like the starlight you are with this NeoPixel Star Crown, inspired by the headdress worn by Hedy Lamar in Zeitgeist Girl. We'll use Adafruit's star-shaped NeoPixels, a switch, and a microcontroller, and program the lights in seconds using WLED. This is a fantastic beginner project, with just a little soldering and no coding required, just a few crafting skills. The crown is made from zip ties and hot glue, and spray-painted gold for extra fabulousness. Dress it up in your style and let your starlight shine. See the full build tutorial at learn.adafruit.com. And remember to subscribe for more fun electronics projects. Create a creepy Halloween illusion that transforms your face into the face of a monster. This illusion uses a two-way mirror that hides inside a prop coffin and a Feather ESP32 running WLED. We'll show you how to hook up all the lights, the scariest illusion ever. See the full build tutorial at learn.adafruit.com. And thanks for celebrating Electronic Halloween with us.
Hey everybody, it's Tim here to give you a peek at the topic of my newest Learn Guide, creating your very own custom LED animations. The Adafruit LED animation library makes it easy to turn your neopixels and dot stars into dazzling light shows filled with rainbows and blinky goodness. There are several built-in animations in the library that are ready to use in your project, and many of them allow you to configure their behavior simply by supplying arguments when you initialize them. But what if your latest project needs a different kind of animation that isn't amongst the built-in ones? Well, this new guide is for you. In the guide, I'll show you how to make your own custom animations that work with the library and all of the other animations within it seamlessly. Check out the new guide for the examples shown here and to learn how to create your own. Hey everybody.
Alright, it's 3D print time. We have catch up, so we're going to play 3 videos, all short. Buckle up. Here we go.
You can build a motion sensing Halloween project with 3D printed parts in Adafruit's RP2040 Prop Maker Feather. We were inspired by those garden butterfly decor and thought we'd remix that idea into a fluttering bat project for Halloween. It uses a distance sensor to detect when somebody reaches for a piece of candy and triggers a servo motor with accompanying music and sound effects. All of our recent Halloween projects feature the RP2040 Prop Maker Feather because it's got everything we need to make interactive props with lights, sounds, and servo motors. The time of flight sensor is mounted in front of the 3D printed case while the rest of the electronics are hidden inside. The bat is attached to a piece of steel wire and a servo horn that creates a bouncing motion while it's rotating. The CircuitPython code features adjustable parameters for easily changing the sound effects, servo delays, and different ranges for the distance sensor. We think this could be adapted for all sorts of projects that need a servo motor, variable sound effects, and looping background music. You can get the parts to build this project, links are in the description. The bat and the enclosure parts are 3D printed in PLA filament and they're free to download. The feather, servo, slide switch, and battery are also secured to a single mounting plate. This keeps the project compact so it can be fitted into a tight space. The speaker is press fitted into this little cavity that's inside the enclosure. A piece of steel wire is anchored to a servo horn disc and a 3D printed hub is press fitted over. The wire is then threaded through a channel that's built into the bat. Together, this makes the bat appear to be fluttering when the servo is in motion. We hope this inspires you to use Adafruit's RP2040 Prop Maker Feather for your next project.
forget 3D Hangouts every single Wednesday with knowing Pedro. We're going to do INPI, but first, a reminder, Shift Pixels, it pays for everything here at Adafruit. You know, yesterday was a paid day off for voting. We wanted to make a national holiday, but we're going to have to just start with Adafruit. Good advice for all of us. Look around. If you can't change the world, change yourself, change the things around you, and then maybe change can happen. Let's do INPI. INPI brought to you by DigiKey and Adafruit. Thank you, DigiKey. Every single week, Ladyada looks at something new, a new product introduction that stands for NPI. Or sorry, NPI stands for that. This week, it's Arduino.
Yes. This week we're going to be looking at an Arduino product, which is it's also in partnership with another company. This is called the Arduino Opta, made with Finder, which is another Italian company that makes industrial automation equipment. And this is a PLC, a programmable logic controller that has, it's like got Arduino at heart. It's got Arduino guts, and it's got this really industrial outer enclosure that's meant for mounting in a factory. So you can use it to control robotics, equipment, heaters, measurement for buildings, measurement for factories, measurement for trains. Pretty much anything that is moving and has to do it repeatedly and efficiently and correctly every time. Historically, what we've used is a PLC, but what's interesting about this, like I said, is this is the first time that we've had an Arduino PLC from Arduino that has their experience in doing software and user interaction with Finder's experience in making equipment for the sector. And you have to have a lot of certifications. If you go back one, actually, you'll see you need certifications.
Looks like a NASCAR.
Yeah,
with like all the logos
FCC
and you got this, you got
UL,
this, you got this, you got this. Yeah.
FCC, proper earth grounding, proper protection.
It's GMO and trans fat free.
I know, it's very healthy. Okay, so historically, right, like before the Industrial Revolution, everything was made by hand. And then we're like, hey, we want to make the same thing over and over again and have it be the same each time. We want the same socks, we want the same meal, we want the same medicine, and we don't want to have to guess whether the person who made it did a good job. It should just be made exactly the same. The problem with assembly lines, though, is you need to have people who will work at the same exact job hour after hour for 8 hours a shift, 3 shifts a day, 5 to 7 days a week. And this is really hard work. And a lot of it is extremely boring. It's really repetitive. You just want to, hammer a nail into the same location or tighten a screw or weld, one piece of metal to the other. And so, when I was a kid, I used to watch how it's made. And one of the interesting things, if you're at all interested in automation engineering, this show is so cool because you get to see factories.
There's like a Midwestern voice. They're like, today we're going to look at how shovels are made.
And onions. So, even, it's interesting is how everything, whether it's medicine or food or clothing, or components for tractors or sensors or toys, it's all made with a very similar process. There is this assembly line. You see these onions are on a conveyor belt, and they're, in this case, they're being washed. Or this is, I think, hand cream. And if you look, they're going down this conveyor belt, but instead of a person, picking up each jar and then scooping hand cream in, and then applying a label, you see all these sensors and servos and motors and actuators that are detecting as each jar goes by, and they apply a label, they weigh it automatically, and it does this 24 hours a day repeatedly without mistakes. It's the reason that we have affordable food, affordable medicine, affordable clothing, because we don't have to hand make it. You can, you can have hand cream.
Time.
Yeah, it saves you a lot of time. And we still need people. We need engineers, and there's still people who do hand work on the line. They just don't do the very repetitive stuff of putting labels on bags. We use an auto bagger now instead of hand labeling bags because it's really tough on your wrist to do it over and over again. But somebody has to program these machines, and the way you program it is with PLCs. And so here's like, diagram for one of the tutorials. Oftentimes every piece of equipment will have a PLC, even if it doesn't have, you can have tons of sensors and inputs and outputs and everything, but even something as simple as just like a tank, which has a level sensor, a relay that controls a pump, a relay that can control a evacuation slot, a hole that will control, a relay that will control when liquid goes in or out, or different liquids, or controls the heating or cooling of the liquid. So, and this is a very common thing. No matter what industry you're in, you're going to have like tubs of liquid that you have to heat up, cool down, maintain temperature, move it from here, move it from there, ferment it. Each one will have, a PLC attached. The PLCs communicate with each other either over Ethernet or Modbus or RS-485. So what's neat is that Finder, which is a company that that worked with Arduino to design the Opta, like they have done this sort of thing for a living for a really long time. They sell relays and components and meters and pumps and stuff, and so they're really well acquainted with what the industry wants and needs. And so when Arduino comes in and they're like, hey, we're really good at doing the scripting and analog and input and output, they work together to say like, well, how can we design something that has the best of both worlds? It has all the protected inputs and the powerful outputs, the LEDs where people expect it, the buttons where people expect it, it's, rail mountable, etc. But what you can do is program it, because inside is a
it's the STM32
H747XI.
So I want to know, could you run CircuitPython on this?
I don't know if we have the H7 supported, but my MicroPython definitely is supported by the H7 series. So I think you can run MicroPython. I think CircuitPython, I don't know if we did the H7 or the F7.
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful chip. It's got a Cortex M7 and M4 running at 480 megahertz. It's got 2 megs of flash, 1 megabyte of RAM. And also has like 16 megabytes of QSPI flash. So it would be great for running MicroPython or CircuitPython. And it's got all the analog inputs and outputs, and it's got crypto support. It's got a real-time clock. You can get it with Ethernet, RS-485, or Wi-Fi/Bluetooth. So there's a couple different options, depending on whether you want something low cost or you need like Ethernet connectivity. And what's cool is with the STM32, it's powerful enough that it can definitely handle Ethernet and do the TLS encryption for you, so you get like a secure connection. Okay, and run a real-time operating system. Yes, these are the options. They get a little bit more expensive. The light version has Ethernet. Actually, sorry, they all have Ethernet. And then as you go up the scale, they get a little bit more expensive, but they're still much less expensive. Even like the highest end Wi-Fi one is about $200. So it's a pretty good deal. That's not much more expensive than a dev board, and you get like this super rugged PLC device. So the strength of this, because you can get PLCs on the market like Siemens, all they do is sell PLCs. What's cool about the Opta is like, you have this analog input, and like other PLCs, it does 0 to 10 volt analog input, but then what you can do is upload a sketch to it in Arduino and read the analog value. And so if you want like to use existing Arduino libraries and tutorials and stuff like averaging and filtering that you would want to have in C++, you can just use that. It's just like normal Arduino. Or if you want to use like I2C sensors, you can do that as well. And then to program it, like I said, you can use Arduino, and that's one way. But I guess this is something new for me. I've never seen this kind of language before, but there's this thing called like the IAC 611 language set, and this is how traditionally PLCs have been programmed, and it's very consistent. It's like there's 5 different versions called structure test, instruction set list, ladder diagram, sequential function chart, and function block diagram. And they're all, it's kind of fascinating because they're all like really like kind of simplistic. They were designed in, I think, like 93, and it was like revised in 2013, but they're still like, it moves slowly because, as you expect, like if you're doing this kind of industrial automation, you don't want to like have things that break, because these robots are moving very fast. You don't want them to like mess up your food, so it's not healthy. You don't want to make mistakes with your medicine, so you don't get the right amount of medicine in each pill. So they're very constrained, which I like. And if you know how to use these, so I was kind of looking at these, like one is, instruction list is like basically assembler. You set up the variables and then you can manipulate them. Structured test looks like C, but it looks a little bit like Pascal. Ladder diagrams, so there's like diagram versions, and then this one, which is like this flow control. It's interesting. There's both graphical. It's interesting. They kind of came. I think they probably invented the assembly one first when they made their way all the way up to this more advanced version. And you know, if you've worked with PLCs before, you'll probably start with this because this is what you know and love. But then as your design gets more and more complicated, maybe you would then transition to using Arduino, or you would just skip this completely. Maybe you want to use PLCs, but you're like, I'm not interested in learning this assembler language. I want to have the power.
Or it's another way to interface, and maybe like you can get the data out and then use Arduino to do IoT stuff, and then publish to a dashboard or something, and then they also have expansions.
Yes, they also have expansions. So if you want to add more I/O, they have like you can add 16 more GPIO, and I think like 8 more SSRs or electromechanical relays. So it's like kind of it's a flexible system for doing PLCs.
In stock.
It's in stock too?
Yeah, and they have a video, and it's rocking. So we're going to play the video, and then we'll see you on the other side for new products. Alright, before we go into new products, don't forget the code is Shift Pixels. You also get all this free stuff. Thank you for supporting Adafruit, an open source hardware company in Brooklyn, New York. Let's jump right in. Ladyada. What's new?
What's new is, first up, we've got this cool new Raspberry Pi Display 2. A nice upgrade for the V1, which was 840 by 480 pixels. This is 1280 by 720, so it's like basically a 7-inch tablet. It's also got a capacitive touch display with like 5 points, like the old one, but an IPS display, so it looks beautiful. And the Raspberry Pi mounts on the back. We've got it in stock. It's even less expensive than the original display. I'm excited. I think I'll do a couple projects with this. Okay. So, and maybe we'll do a case design for it too.
Next up,
the LPS 28. We covered this on INPI a couple months ago. A couple years ago, and then the pressure sensor was unavailable because the part shortage, and then it became available again. So we made a breakout board for it. What's really cool about this is it can do up to 4,000 hectopascals or bars, which is unusual. Most pressure sensors max out at about 1260, which is a little bit higher pressure than sea level, but this can go down, I think, 30 or 40 meters below sea level. So this could be good for like UAV projects, not UAV, UA underwater, whatever, underwater robots, whatever the UAVs are called, or depth sensors that are in or pressure sensors that are in a enclosure that could get to higher pressures than atmospheric pressure.
Okay, and the star of the show, besides you, Ladyada, our team, our customers, our community, and everyone who makes and shares and tries to build together to do something interesting, is a pixel shifter.
Yes, so we have this NeoPixel shifter. I designed this because I was working with NeoPixels that were being very finicky, really wanted 5-volt signal, not 3-volt signal, and so I was like, if only I had a little board that was like little tiny and easy to use. So this board is easy to use because you don't need any tools. Other than a screwdriver, you don't need solder or anything. You can have two 3.3 volt data line inputs, and you'll get two 5-volt outputs, and you'll also get one inverted line, which is useful for chips like the TM1814. I learned that that it needs a NeoPixel signal, but it's like the opposite polarity, and so one of the pin out, it will give you that pin out, so you can easily drive those without having to like do custom NeoPixel code. There's also one NeoPixel on board, so if you want to test signal to make sure that you're getting proper NeoPixel, it'll light up to let you know that. And it's just like, I don't know, easy to use. Just use terminal blocks, open it up, screw some wires in. And so if you're having really flaky behavior from your NeoPixels or NeoPixel compatibles or AP102s, I recommend getting the shifter. Definitely, I've seen a lot of people, especially if you have a 6-volt power or a little bit higher, and the strips are sensitive, they really want 5 volts, but you're using an RP2040 or a Raspberry Pi, this will solve it for you, and it's only a couple bucks.
Alrighty, and with that is new products.
New.
Okay, we have a bunch of questions lined up from the chat and from earlier in the week, but we're going to do top secret first, and then we're going to do your questions. Here we go. All right, so in case you haven't seen it, this is our Flopsy artwork. We have a bunch of cool art and fun things we're doing. We've been working on this board for a while. What's the latest update, Ladyada?
Okay, latest update is I made mistakes, but I also added some cool features. I'll fix these mistakes. So I added Apple Disk 2 port, which required adding a negative 12-volt power supply because it needs it for biasing. And I also updated the pinout for the floppy so it could be used for emulating a floppy. So not only can it read floppies, I also added some buttons for it. Like I wanted to have an offline mode, so like you don't even need a computer. Like you just connect to a floppy drive and then have it like dump floppy disks without computer involved. And also sensor inputs.
Okay.
I also designed, so I did a lot with the BQ 25185, which is kind of a cool low-cost LiPo charger that can do 1 amp, but it can also do solar input. I actually verified, I got my solar panel out and verified it actually works quite well with solar. It does some power tracking with that. So this is a version, so I made a version that's just the charger chip, like in all the outputs, and then I made a version that had a 3.3 volt buck output, and this is a 5 volt boost output. So this is kind of like a solar power boost. Maybe I'll call it solar boost.
Okay.
It's very inexpensive and simple. It doesn't have like all the LEDs of the power boost, but like I said, it does solar output. It's got USB-C. And then since I did that negative supply for the Apple Disk 2 on the Flopsy, one thing that I noticed was it's really hard to get a split supply generator, and so like finding a buck that can handle negative voltages, it's like there's not that many, they're kind of expensive, but this chip is actually really cheap in comparison and does both buck and boost. Not huge amounts, it's only got a 2 amp internal switch, so it's good for like a couple hundred milliamps maybe, but it's split supply. It's good for like analog synthesizers and like other basically analog stuff where you need like +/6 to +/12. So I made a little breakout board for this. I think it'll be handy for people doing projects, especially retro projects. A lot of old products I've seen need + and -12 volts.
That's top secret.
Yep.
Back in the vault, you.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna hop right over to questions. That's not it.
Questions.
That's it.
That's it. The question is, where's the question graphic? Okay, So let's go with questions, but I'm going to do the ones that I saw here, and I'm going to go in a different order here. So can the HSTX act as a USB host?
No, it's output only.
Okay. The shifter needs 3.3 and 5 volt inputs, right?
It only needs 3.3. There's a boost converter on board.
Okay. Would you consider making a Neo Trellis M4 portable?
I think you could make it. Oh, the Neo Trellis M4. Yeah, it's annoying. I didn't quite design it to be portable because it needs so much power. I think I think a USB battery pack is your best bet.
Okay. Hello from MIT. I'm working on an experimental flying machine that needs a good IMU. I like the BNO 55 and BNO 85 breakouts, product ID, blah, blah. But I'm a bit confused about how to pick between them. The product text on the 85 seems to say that it's the same hardware, but with better firmware, but it's $5 cheaper than the 55. Am I missing something about the 55 that makes it more desirable? From what I can see, it seems like the 85 is both cheaper and better.
Yeah, the 55 is older, and it is a little more expensive because it just is more expensive, but a lot of people have built projects that use it. I will say that the 085, the I2C protocol is way bulkier, and we do have it working, but it's like, it's a little bit of a beat, like it's a lot just more complex. Whereas the 055, there's just a lot more like support for it. The quality of the two, not really. So here's the thing, the underlying sensor is the same, right? It's just like the Cortex M0 is programmed with different firmware. One is from...
If you had to pick one.
I think the 085 is fine. I would try that.
Okay.
If it works with your hardware, because it really needs, it's very clock stretchy. I mean, you have to make sure that you have something that's a lot of, that's a really good I2C peripheral. It can't be a flaky peripheral.
Okay. Is it okay to use SSR with a PWM signal to drive a heater element? Would a MOSFET be better?
Don't PWM and SSR.
Okay. And they said the PWM,
use
to the
PWM.
heater is on a PID loop. Not sure if the SSR would handle correctly. I prefer to use SSR on-off pump the heater versus a PWM signal in a loop.
You're really, if you use an SSR, you would have it on or off, and you don't, I mean, you can turn it on and off fairly quickly, but you can't PWM it. To be honest, you don't really need to PWM a heater, especially if it's slow enough. It really depends, but either one would work. But the SSR, you just can't PWM. You have to have like a duty cycle that's a little longer. But if it's in a loop anyways, then like maybe it doesn't matter. Heaters tend to be kind of slow.
Oh.
So like it's not like a motor where you have to PWM it because it's so fast. You can't like turn a motor on and off every 2 seconds and have it average.
Okay, let's go on to the ones that we got.
Okay.
I've sketched out running a Raspberry Pi 4 with Adafruit I bonnet to 240 screens 24/7. I did the solder work. As a rookie, just feeling like it's a fire hazard. I want to leave them running 24/7. Can you put my mind at ease? I'm sure it's all some neat case I could, but I couldn't solder the work cables and not even think about it. So
It's not a fire hazard. I mean, I want to say that because like anyone can make anything a fire hazard.
Yeah.
There's no high voltages. The ICE bonnet and the screens are very, very low power. I'd say, just put it in. We have plastic cases. I'd put it in a plastic case so that it can't touch anything metal. Nobody can spill anything on it. I wouldn't leave it on like a pile of oily rags, but I don't see anything that makes me think it's dangerous.
next up, how does the iFixit iron compare to a pine saw?
That's a really good question.
Hopefully
somebody will do a video review.
Someone did a comparison.
Review?
Yeah.
Okay.
Search on YouTube. I think I saw one and I had saved it for later. But I didn't watch
like that the iFixit is a little wider. Like I don't like these super skinny. It should be a pencil. It
I like
should
that
be
it's
a
hacky and it's
soldering
iFixit and they're trying to do
You
something.
want to have a good grip.
important, yeah.
That's me. So I like that it was a little bit bigger. I actually don't want it to be like a little skinny thing that rolls in my fingers.
Okay. Next up, programming triggers for soundboard for the Adafruit audio effects board. Is it possible to program a standard trigger sound and a whole trigger sound for the same button number slot?
No, but if you look on the learning system, Jepler did a guide on how to replicate the audio effects board with an RP2350 and use MP3s, and then you can do whatever you want. That's one of the things I want to do. I want to replace it.
Next up, any thoughts on adding RSS feed to Adafruit Playground Notes? Yeah, we're probably going to be adding RSS feeds soon. Once we do that, though, we have to have countermeasures because all of the scrapers and all the things that take down sites and more, they just gobble that up, so we want to make sure we do it right. It'll probably be a feature we add soon. Next up, is there any way to use CircuitPython and VS Code? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's tons of guides. We have one, I think. Other people have written them. Absolutely, you can use VS Code with CircuitPython.
Okay. This one, why don't you read this one, Ladyada, while I wrap
Okay,
up
so
stuff
they're doing
over here.
fritzing. They wanted a TFT feather, ultimate GPS wing, and a 9DOF absent orientation IMU. You want to stack stuff. Okay, if you want to stack stuff, just don't put the GPS feather wing in there. Just put the TFT feather, because that'll get you all the GPIO, and then you can do the layout, and then just remember how to solder it. And then they do. Oh, so the HSTX connector is the same as the Raspberry Pi 5 DSi. Yes, that's on purpose. Can it drive a DSi display? Not yet. But it's something that we think would be cool, and maybe we will eventually be able to do, but it has not been done yet. But the idea is that technically you could do it, but remember, you don't have enough memory for like the Pi Display 2, which is, you need a huge amount of video memory unless somebody gets the HSTX working with the PSRAM. So most times you need a connector. It seemed to, why not invent a new connector? But there is no, just because it's mechanically, electrically compatible doesn't mean your code will work with it.
And last up question, thinking of using the C Flash on RPI project, just need a few bytes for module IDs. My SPI and GPO are already maxed out. Any other suggestions?
No, I think a 24LC I2C EEPROM is the perfect choice. It's well supported, it's reliable. If you need something faster, use FRAM, but if you don't need a little bit of data, like a MAC address, a numerical identifier, a string, 24LC all the way. We have a little systemic ET breakout for it too.
And that is
Questions. Okay.
All right, everybody, that's our show for tonight.
thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you so much. We got to get out of here. We got a bunch of stuff going on. Please be good to each other. We will see everybody throughout the week. We have more shows. Monday is Veterans Day, so we will not be shipping, but we're around and more. And special thanks to our veterans who have served this nation. We will see everybody next week. This has been an Adafruit production.
Good night, everybody.
Here is your moment of Zener.
Beep boop.